morning, everyone. Happy Saturday, day 19, I believe. So, excellent work. Today we're getting into the right? So we're going to complete the phonetic structure of the we're going to talk about a lot of things today because for the next 4 days, we're all going to essentially practice in our silence, which I think is much needed at this point because this has been quite an intellectual exercise. And we tried to open that up with the preface that a lot of this has to do with applying abstract meaning, and that when we can sort of absorb that meaning that we ourselves generate, very much like artists, it changes. It matters to us. It changes the way we see the world. So when I was in Rishikesh the first time, just sort of like highlighting the weight of like the intellectual exercise that the Om and yoga can be, I was invited to a guru. And this was the only guru experience I had. And I make my way a mile hike across the lip of the mountain through the forest, and there's a clearing and a big home, a small ashram, but a big home. And I walk in and no one's there, just one person. And the walls, the empty room, the walls are lined with photos and paintings of the lineage, I suppose, the teachers. And in the distance, there's a man meditating with all sorts of incense and candles and murtis, images of divine figures around him. And so there's one other person sitting up front, and I sit next to this other student, sort of expecting. I don't know what I'm expecting. I just sit down and have my eyes open. And finally, the guru opens his eyes, the yogi opens his eyes, and he essentially just starts speaking in Hindi and running through Sanskrit terms. And so I was a little bit taken back. I can't absorb Hindi. I didn't know much Sanskrit, but I was very thankful for the little bit that I knew. And it was just sort of this wave after wave after wave after wave of concept. And I sat there once the meditation started, and the Hindi lecture just continued. So I opened my eyes, disheartened, went back to my guest house, wrote about it, very frustrated, didn't understand anything, too much Sanskrit, this and that. And as I was sort of venting into my journal, I realized that that's the lesson. My frustration with the inability, not just because I didn't know Hindi, my frustration with my ignorance in relationship to the philosophies was one, unnecessary because the experience transcends that. So if I just organized my body and my breath and my heart, it would have been fine. But it also opened the way to like really understanding these concepts. And so the same, I'm sharing this because maybe you find yourself in the same place. A lot of concept, a lot of weight upon the mind, but the mind can be taught to grow strong and in that carry these huge ideas. And so then we can bounce to Carl Jung, who had a really brilliant sort of relationship with huge ideas, right? He trailblazed into the concept of archetypes and looked into the past as a Western psychologist, and utilized and married both to create a really powerful way of interacting with the human psyche. But essentially said, when you as an individual confront concepts that are expansive and much greater than you, if you can let them in, if you can take them, they will transform, they will essentially obliterate your identity, and you will become that expansive thought. And so, the Om is such an expansive thought. And so here we are at the final phonetic syllable of the Om, the and I'm sure you understand at this point, it's destruction, it's death, it's transformation, and the God that represents this aspect of existence is Shiva, another blue-skinned character. Shiva, for those that aren't familiar, is the Lord of Yoga. So as yogis, who we sort of look to as guidance or to provide an example of how we should conduct ourselves in practice is Shiva. And so what is the Om at this point? It is a vibratory experience that suggests life is vibrational and that all moments, as we know, but maybe don't feel all the time or are surprised by when these truths emerge, is that life is an everlasting experience until it ends, but as we live through it, it is pushed forward through birth and death. And that confluence between birth and death is so smooth and seamless that it feels like life just sort of rolls out before us and through us. But when we look and we take the time to observe life, it's made of these three components. And as we chant the Om, we attempt to connect to these three components in a physiological way by appreciating that life is also mechanistically vibration. And so we tap into the subtle vibration of chanting, and in that sort of sink into the nuances or the substratum of our existence, this real, tangible existence. We pull ourselves into that vibrational nature, and all of a sudden we enter this trance. And we've been using these abstract meanings like Bhumi Sparsha Mudra and wisdom and creation and the eternity of the now to sort of build a relationship to what is essentially just a vibrational sort of resonance in the body. And so now we're at the and before we can really appreciate what the is, and in that what the Om is, we have to turn to another book, a book called the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. The Vijnana Bhairava Tantra is a discussion between Lord Shiva and his wife, Parvati. And Parvati is asking Shiva, what is the goal of yoga? And she asks because she is educated. She lives alongside the god of yoga. So she knows the right questions to ask. And she says, is the truth, right? This ocean of undifferentiated wisdom, is the truth vibrational? Is the truth always changing and dancing and transforming? Or is the truth beyond change? And Shiva looks at her and says, the truth is beyond change. And so this is what Bhairav means. Bhairav is beyond sound. It's not the four nadas. It's not what we hear. It's not what we feel. The truth, what we're looking for, is somehow outside of the nadas. It is self-contained and independent. So Shiva says, the truth is beyond sound. It is beyond vibration. It is beyond me as the Lord of Ends. It is beyond Vishnu as the preserver. And it is beyond Brahma. We are only sort of apostles of this truth. And so then the book goes on to explain 100 plus ways in which a yogi can access this truth that is beyond sound and beyond change. And so now it's like very similar to Patanjali's discourse, where he names all of these ways to practice meditation, and we suggested that it was really about applying abstract meaning. We have another book that lists many ways of potentially accessing this experience that's beyond sound. And so while it is psychological, and so this is very important to hear, while it is psychological, it is also biological. What is happening when you're meditating, that experience of emptiness, that experience of clarity, that experience of peace, is dependent on your willingness to focus and the caliber of your focus. When you focus, your brain stops processing neurologically you, and it stops processing all the people you care about, and it stops thinking about what those people are thinking about you, and it stops thinking about what you think about those other people. So the social construct within the mind literally turns off, and what it replaces that sort of buzz is pure presence without the influence of the identity. And if you take the time to read any yogic book, what it says is yoga is a way of breaking the identity. And again, this depends on your willingness and caliber of focus. And so at the same time, this is why the artist can love painting the painting, or the author can love reading, or the surfer loves surfing, because that focus wipes out the identity. But as we chant the vibration, as we chant the mantra, and we are pulled internally, and this is sort of the backbone of meditation, our attention, our sort of identity-less attention is pulled into the inner world of our being. It is pulled into the vibrational nature of our bodies, which in a physical way is a more fundamental expression of the world. And so when you conflate these two events, that I'm looking inside and really paying attention to the subtle dimensions of my body, chanting the mantra Om helps, and my identity is wiped out because of my focus, the whole world is replaced by the bliss of a nervous system that is being strategically soothed. Okay? And so now all that exists is the soothed nervous system buzzing in its sort of in its own language. And that's all that is. And you spend more and more time in this sort of mental and physical relief, and you come back out into the world very much like Vishnu, prepared to create the reality that you might have forgotten or has been whispering in your ears. Either way. Okay, sweet. So that's it. And the last little thing I want to say in regard specifically to the Om and the M part of the Om. uh, what you want to question, and this is just sort of the advice of all great teachers, what you want to question is who is observing yourself chanting? Who feels the om? Who pays attention to my thoughts, your thoughts? Who feels the vibration? Who's controlling the mouth? What is the I? The I, the deep I, not your identity, is that thing that is beyond change. And as cryptic as that sounds, again, let's think of Carl Jung. If you can absorb an idea that is greater than yourself, you are elevated into the space and the power of that idea. So question the I while you chant the Om. Bhairav, Shiva says the truth is beyond sound. So the Om takes us into that silence. And so, Om. That silence is where you will find the I. That silence is where you will find the heart of yoga, and that silence is where you'll find sort of the truth if you are cognizant of that moment. Alrighty, everyone. Cool. So that was the last discussion for about 4 days. Hope it settled. Take a second to maybe, listen to it again. Always helpful. And now we can shift gears. Whatever's stuck in your mind. Let's shift gears and get into our practice. So what are we going to do today? We're going to chant the full Om, syllable by syllable by syllable. It would be best, once you get a sense of like your lung capacity, to spend equal time with each syllable, including that silence. And so we're going to add a little bit of kumbhaka, a little bit of breath retention, just to make sure you are in what Shiva sort of expressed as Bhairav, beyond sound. So ah for 3 seconds, for example, oo for 3 seconds, the vibration rises up into the throat. For 3 seconds, the vibration becomes tighter as the mouth collapses, and then silence for 3 seconds. And in that silence especially, gently question, who is aware of this moment? And maybe if you're lucky, you will experience an answer. And then you'll have countless rounds of this practice. The more you focus, the more successful you'll be, obviously, and the more willing you are to feel the vibration in its detail, the more successful you will be. And we all want to be successful. Cool. All right, let's do this, everyone. Strong seated position. Wrist rests on knees, nice straight arms. Hands held open, palms to the sky. So posture 1. Slow down your breath, the breath of peace, into the belly, into the chest, avoid the collarbone, prolong the exhale. Now bring your fingers to your thumbs. And your posture is set. And so what are you doing now? What does this posture represent? It represents the pursuit of truth, a truth that is beyond logic, a truth hidden in the sensory experience. And as fictional as this sounds, as unreal or unnecessary as it may seem, to practice powerfully demands that we believe in the potential of this truth. So simply said, we're all looking for something more meaningful. And the yogis believe that that is a natural step in the maturation of an individual. We are alive like Vishnu, awake to the world, but we seek to know its heart. And in our brilliance, we believe that that heart is inside us. And so let's spend about 3 minutes as usual here. When peace comes, if peace comes, it's like a cold shower on the body and the mind, cleansed. If and when it comes, bring your hands to heart center and keep your hands at heart center until I cue Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. And as you keep your hands at heart center, Memorize this piece. Everyone slow down your breath. As the breath deepens, the yogis believed prana, vital energy, increases. And in that, consciousness heightens. Physiologically, as the breath deepens, you become more aware of your body, you introspect. The nervous system relaxes, and in that, you mentally settle into the now. So Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. And so the legend of this posture, the Buddha, before his enlightenment, was tested and claimed the earth was his witness. The earth will behold his achievement. So just consider, as you replicate this posture, there is something to achieve. As Parvati asked Shiva, "What is the truth?" And Shiva responds, "I'll tell you that it is beyond change." And we can rely on the discourses of actual teachers, actual gurus, who all say, it is the I. The self-illuminated I that perceives your dreams, that perceives the spectrum of your emotions, that is cognizant of unconscious sleep, and that will surpass or survive death. And so as we chant the Om, Ah, birth, U, preservation, and death, pay attention to the silence at the end. Abstract meaning, every utterance of the mantra is a lifetime. Feel the vibration rise, feel its journey, lose yourself in the sensations. And by the end of our session, we might be a little bit closer to that ocean of understanding. Shunyata drishti, look into the darkness of your closed eyes, that perks you up. What beholds that darkness? I. Okay. Vaikarinada, audible sound, chant the Om. A, U, and silence. And now silence. As always, focus on the buzzing of your body that signals aliveness. It signals new beginnings. It signals existence, and it signals transformation. A, U, M. You can even let the mind run outside of the body and appreciate your environment, your day, time and space. And that vibration is still there in one capacity or the other. Enjoy it. But then the question again, what observes that vibration? The eye. And so the eye doesn't change, it doesn't vibrate, it doesn't adjust. It is only veiled in the forms of life, veiled in the undulations of sensation and experience. And to an unpracticed mind, the eye becomes those undulations. It becomes what it perceives. And the great skill of yoga is to separate the eye from what it is aware of, and to rest as that pure identity. And so just feel and consider and trust that this takes some time. As always, slow down your breath. Feel it support your practice. Hands to heart center. And just stay in silence. Thumb knuckles to third eye center. When we get good at this game, the feeling of your thumbs on your forehead spotlights the awareness that perceives it. That awareness is the point of yoga. Building a relationship to that pure awareness for the sake of building a relationship to it is the secret to a yogi's bliss. It has nothing to do with the world. Release your wrists to your knees, nice straight arms. Fingers to thumb. Awareness within a vibrating mind, within a vibrating body, within a vibrating ecosystem. All of these vibrating dimensions were born, will live, and will pass. Again, the faith of the yogi is that that awareness will not. Whether it's real or unreal, when we can absorb the magnitude of that idea and choose to believe it, as abstract as it might be, it lifts us with unprecedented meaning. And you sit there in your room with this sense of extraordinary achievement. Maybe 1 second, maybe 2 minutes. But the great sages of India spend 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in their caves, resting purely in this success. So the Om leads you to the I. The Pranava, the creation of creation, leads you to Atman, the awareness of that creation. Very poetic. With a breath in, open your eyes like Vishnu to the world, and immediately the dream world of your practice is overwhelmed or overpowered by the dream world of reality.